Short story, Unforeseen Consequences. Part 1. Leila waited silently as Lord Fanuel approached, carefully weighing out what to say. She had played this meeting out in her mind 100 times during her journey, but in truth it always ended with her coming across like a raving lunatic. How could she possibly convince him of what she knew to be true? The idea that a young unknown elf was having visions of the end of the world. It sounded crazy, and she knew it. If she had not lived through it, if she had not seen the demons in the shadows with her own 2 eyes, she would have laughed at the mere thought of it herself. The battle-hardened lord reached her and smoothly dismounted his windrider. The massive stag-like creature gave a small snort in her direction. Windriders were notoriously loyal to their masters, but also very temperamental, so she made an effort to keep her distance. Greetings, Leila. I saw what you did out here, and I thank you for your assistance in the battle. But tell me, what exactly are you doing here? He gave her a strange look as he spoke, and as if he didn't quite believe it was really her. The person he knew from all these years. She couldn't blame him. She looked like a mess, her fine clothes ripped and torn from her journey. Heck, she couldn't even remember the last time she had washed. Despite everything she'd done to get here, Leila suddenly found herself very nervous and out of place. I have important news. The words escaped her as she looked at the elves and human around her. Do you have somewhere we could talk privately? She asked. Fenrir nodded and led her through the battlefield and onto the Empyrean camp. A short while later, she found herself in his command tent, doing her best to explain the situation. Fenrir let her speak her heart without interfering, watching in stone-cold silence. When she finally finished, he just stared at her. Eventually, the silence in the room became uncomfortable and heavy, like a physical thing bearing down on everything around them. Well, say something, she said. Fenrir sighed. It's a lot to take in, Leila, he finally said. And you say the Crystal Council already forbade you from taking this further? He asked, giving her a knowing, meaningful look. They do not believe me, just like they did not believe Miloween. That's why I came here to you. You know me, Fenrir. You know I wouldn't have come all this way, put my life on the line as I did, only to then lie about something like this, she said. Fenrir considered her words, arms crossed, and nodded slowly. True. The woman I once knew would not lie. His eyes then turned cold as ice. But honestly, Leila, you do not appear anything like her. You've changed. There is a fresh madness in your eyes. One like of which we've never seen before, he said, eyeing her carefully before continuing. It is story time with Leila. This is story time, guys! We're getting to the new master that's going to be introduced to the game. And this is how you come before me now, ragged, raving, and without proof. You suggest I should convince my army to journey across the sea, to a continent where we have no business being, to enter a jungle that no elf army has survived for centuries. And all on the notion that a young elf named Miloween, hardly out of adolescence, has had visions of a terrible doom that's coming. Surely, even as you are, you can see how this sounds. He sounded angry as he finished speaking. It's just like Lithril warned me, you have gone mad. Lithril, she blurted out the name. That's impossible. How does the head of the Crystal Council even know I'm here? I do not know, he said. But I got word this morning that you might show up, and that you would try and spin some tale to get what you want, whatever that might be. In light of that, I've been told to bring you back to Elenuth to face questioning. Leila tried her best to keep her composure, but her worries rose by the second. The fools! If only they've seen what I've seen, know what I know, they'd understand the danger we're all in. Please, Fenrir, you know me. I'm still the Leila you used to know, the one who was your friend so long ago, she said. The only reason you're not in chains, Leila, is because of our friendship. I wanted to give you a chance to say your part. I had hoped you were still the person I knew. I dearly wish Lithril was wrong. But this is madness. It cannot, will not risk my men's lives on this folly of a quest. It's story time with Leila right now. We beat the adventure mode chapter 1, and then this is a nice lore leading into the new master that's being added into the game. So that's what we are doing right now, is we are reading it together as a community. It's story time with Leila. Let's see. Leila felt her heart sink. like a stone thrown into the depths of a cold, deep lake, never to see the light of day again. But before she could respond, the drapes of the tent split apart and a blinding light shone from the outside. At first, Leila thought it was the sun. But as her eyes adjusted, she realized the light was actually coming from a massive figure now blocking the entrance. The glow seemed to emanate from the figure's intricate golden armor, lighting up the tent and casting long shadows across its interior. Guys, is this the paladin I've been looking forward to? Remember, I wanted a paladin master. Are we getting a pally finally? It's the one I've been wanting? It was even more shocking when the figure started to move and she realized it was actually a human, far larger than any of them had any right to be. His eyes burned with a golden glow, visible only through the slits of his helmet. The giant imposing figure easily stood a head and chest taller than the surrounding elves. It was much wider in girth. He was, without a doubt, one of the fabled Brothers of Lights, but he looked bigger, if that was even possible, and his armor was much more refined. Leila had seen the magically enhanced Brethren of the Light before, at least from a distance, and while impressive in their own right, this was something different altogether. To her mage sight, the armor seemed to pulsate with raw power. It reminded her of the staff Miluine carried. To her, it somehow felt the same. Maybe Fenrir's right, she thought. Maybe I'm going mad. I know, I'm so excited. I hope this is the Paladin Master I've been wanting. The two sentries keeping guard at the entrance moved to block the giant's way, crossing their spears. Both of the guards were seasoned veterans, and even they looked like mere children holding sticks when compared to that mountain of golden armor. The giant spoke, his voice deep and commanding. He was clearly someone used to being obeyed. "You're in my path, elflings. Get out of the way." The elven guards looked back at Fanriel for a quick second. The man nodded, and they quickly stepped aside, letting the glowing figure pass, making no attempt to hide their obvious relief. "Welcome, Grand Justicar of Valorian. A battle well fought," greeted Fanriel, applying his diplomatic skills immediately. Valorian took another step into the tent, making Leila take a few steps backwards. To her mage sight, it was almost like being in the presence of a sun. The light magic surrounding him almost burned her magical senses with its purity. This is exciting! It's 2 a.m. here. Story does not help keep awake! I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, procrastinator. I'm really excited. I'm so excited. Like I said, I hope this is the Paladin Master I wanted. I hope this is. Okay. Please join me, Grand Justicar, for we have much to discuss after the battle, Fanriel said. He then gestured to the guards at the door. "Please escort Miss Brightfeather to my personal tent, and make sure she stays there," he added as an afterthought. "Please," Leila began one last time. "Don't do this, Fanriel," she pleaded, even as she was being forcibly removed by the guards. Her surprise at the golden giant momentarily forgotten. "Miluine will stand alone. If we do not help her, No, we are all doomed. Please reconsider." The sad look on Fanriel's face as she was dragged from the room told her his mind wasn't yet settled on the matter. And yet she felt his pain as much as she felt hers. She flailed in the iron grip of the guards, hoping to plead her case just one more time, hoping maybe she could finally break Fanriel's resolution. But she was pulled out of the tent like a common vandal before she could utter another word. The armored giant, she'd pondered later in solitude, had merely watched her as the guards dragged her past him, seemingly indifferent to her plight. That was part 1. Guys, what do you think so far? So, before I continue with this, when we were discussing the possibility of a new master being introduced into the game, you know, we did this fun thing with the community where I said, if we were going to have a paladin master, because I really, really wanted one, what kind of perks and abilities would he have? And already talking about this glowing armor and like this aura and this sun and like solar, this like power and stuff like that was all kinds of fun stuff that the community said. All kinds of fun stuff. So I'm really excited if this is the case. And we're talking about this Grand Justicar Valorian being a new like paladin type master that's added. I'm pretty excited about it. Oh, procrastinator, well, thank you. I hope you have a good night if you do fall asleep. I will be back tomorrow as well. I'll be back tomorrow as well. All right, guys, part 2. Let's go. Part 2. I'm so excited. Night eventually settled around camp, and Leila was spent and broken, her whole body in pain. She'd been pacing up and down the tent for hours, pondering over her predicament. There were guards outside, and although she'd considered trying to fight her way out, she couldn't think of a way that didn't involve spilling elven blood. Even if I got out somehow, where would I even go, she thought to herself. The frustration of it all had turned into a sort of hopeless fury. Her tired feet aching, Leila had just turned to do another lap of the tent when she suddenly stopped, dead in her tracks. Her sensitive elven ears had picked up something from outside. Something out of the ordinary, like a thud, followed quickly by another. She stood quietly and listened, unsure of what was going on. Maybe Fanriel's coming back, she thought. If so, I may have another chance at convincing him. She'd been keeping her eyes fixed on the entrance to the tent, so her heart almost leapt out of her chest when out of nowhere, a deep rumbling voice spoke from behind. "Greetings, elf." The sound made her spin around and she nearly fell on her butt at the surprise of what she saw, taking a few scrambling steps backwards. It wasn't Fanriel, but the golden giant from before, Valorian, who stood there, despite all logic and reason. This time, however, his armor wasn't glowing like before. It instead seemed to bend the light around him, making it hard for the eyes to focus on his silhouette. As she watched in disbelief, 1,000 thoughts racing through her mind, the armor slowly came back into focus, becoming a solid wall of gold once more before her. The man wasn't wearing his helmet this time either. Instead, she now saw a hard, chiseled face looking back at her. How he could have possibly gotten to the tent without her knowing was beyond her understanding. The elf girl you spoke of earlier today, her name. Repeat it, if you will, he said in that low, rumbling voice. What do you mean? Leila asked, trying to figure out what was going on. I'm not used to repeating myself, he coarsely replied. His voice brokered no further argument, and before Leila had fully thought about it, she quietly whispered, Miloween. Her name is Miloween. The man sighed long and deep. I've heard that name spoken before, he said, sounding almost regretful. The guards outside will hear us, she replied in a hushed tone. I wouldn't worry, he said. They're both asleep. What? How is that possible? An elf sentry would never sleep. Her words trailed off as she realized what he meant. Don't worry, he said, following her chain of thought. They're still breathing. It wouldn't do any good to break the alliance between our two races, not when the Empress has fought so hard to keep it intact. He crouched down on one knee, bringing himself down to her eye level. His golden eyes seemed to look right through her. Back on topic. I know the name of which you speak, and overheard most of what you told your commander, but I had to be sure. This leaves me in something of a predicament. Her confused stare urged him to continue. An old friend, a man whose loyalty I would trust with my life, has told me stories of this Miloween. Stories I would have disregarded as fairy tales, had they come from anyone else. Then, you believe me, she exclaimed, surprised. Yes. But armies do not simply go places on the word of young girls, or their heralds, he added as an afterthought. I understand. I know this was a long shot, but we just didn't have time. Given the danger we're all facing, I needed to react quickly and decisively, not spend precious time seeking the approval of people I knew would not heed me. She gave him a quick, added look after speaking. And I am no one's herald. I'm acting out of all of our common interests, not just Miloween's. Could have fooled me, elf. Still, you're desperate. I get it. I can see the responsibilities of it all has nearly run you ragged. It would have been wise, however, to have prepared better before presenting your case. Or at least taken the time to wash up some. You look positively haggard. Oh geez, the poor girl. She'd been traveling, she'd been fighting, of course. Of course. Leila wasn't sure if he was joking or not, so she just stood there in quiet disbelief, allowing him to continue. Regardless, armies do not travel across continents on a whim, and despite my rank and station, my duty forbids me from taking this army wherever I please. So like I said, a predicament. Before Leila had a chance to respond, he asked, when did Miloween leave for the jungle? Leila sighed before answering. Almost 3 weeks ago, she said. We may already be too late, he replied. An Imperial force has already set out for the jungle. They left for Jadespark Bay at about the same time as your friend. That's great news, exclaimed Leila, feeling her luck started to turn. Maybe we could convince them to help. Not in my wildest dreams did I think we would be this lucky. The giant rumbled a grunt and looked away in a way that made Leila check her enthusiasm. I'm afraid you misunderstand. I don't believe this army is going to help her. In fact, I think they might pose a mortal danger to her. The confused look Leila gave him, once more, made him explain further. The force is led by one of our high priests, Ardera, leader of the Order of the Burning Fist. I've long suspected her veneer of righteous fury to be not by a mask, hiding a darker truth. Alas, I had no proof. Until now. You see, this crusade of hers is not even sanctioned by the Empress. Ardera left without approval, taking only her own followers. There are schemes afoot that we do not yet understand. And if my hunch is correct, it may well prove the downfall of young Milween. So if you guys are just joining in, after you beat Chapter 1 of the new adventure mode, you are taken to this fantastic lore and story that introduces us to a new master that's coming to the game. A while back, when we were talking about new masters, on the Minion Master website, they teased of this Paladin Master, like months back. And so now I'm hopeful that that's who this is. Lord Justicar Valorian. But wait, what's this all about then? Why are you even here? Did you sneak in just to tell me that all hope is lost? She said, a measure of her former elf sense of superiority returning to her. A strange rumbling, like boulders grinding together, came from Valorian's chest. It took Leila a moment to realize it was laughter. I'll come to Milween's aid, and so will my brethren, but the army stays here. How many of you are there? Leila asked. 50 brothers and sisters, the man replied. Leila sighed. It won't be enough. I don't care how powerful you and your brethren are, Valorian. 50 bodies will be enough for what's coming. It'll have to be, the giant said, perking up. Don't be so quick to dismiss the Brothers of Light now, Elf. You have no idea what even one of us is capable of. Leila looked Valorian in the eyes, searching them, and recognized both the confidence and the warning in them. As it were, she had come too far to go back empty-handed. 50 men and women wasn't enough, but it was well better than nothing. Eventually, she nodded at the large man. I appreciate any help we can get. Valeria nodded back. Now, let's see about getting you out of here. We have a long journey ahead and precious little time to spare. That was part 2! What do you guys think? Very interesting. So, Grand Justicar Valorian looks like the leader of the Brothers of the Light, right? Because, again, the Brother of the Light is one of the newer cards that we have. So I think this is pretty cool. I'm liking it. I'm really liking what they did with the lore this time. I think it's a lot of fun. Alright, guys, last part. We are on part 3. Part 3! Here we go. Dirt and worms. I hate dirt and worms. Well, maybe that's unfair. They're great listeners after all. But no, he definitely hated them. He must have hated them simply in principle because he hated most things. Yes, that is right. I hate them, I do. He started cackling madly, but quickly stopped himself. Quiet, you old fool, or the plan is ruined. He whispered to himself through a jaw that didn't move. The significant beings above would hear us. So what? Let them, he replied to himself in a harsher whisper. I can take them on. No. Focus. Remember the plan. I must find the book again. It is mine. Yes, the book. But why did I need the book again? Ah, it's so hard to remember things. He tried to shake his bony head, but it was stuck in the thick dirt surrounding him. Dirt and worms had crawled all over his bare skull, and, despite having no nerves or flesh to speak of, it tickled something terrible, making it even harder to think. Darn worms, he thought to himself again, and stupid, filthy humans and elves. They had all gotten in my way and nearly won the battle. Nearly, but not quite. They were no match for my brilliant plan, though, were they? He reminded himself. They think me dead, and yet here I am, a mere few feet below. Very much alive. Or, dead. But still kicking. Same difference. How could that silly elf sorcerer possibly believe she defeated the great Mordar? Ha! Never. He stopped himself from another fit of mad laughter, and instead focused on what was in his one remaining hand. His bony fingers gripped 3 small shards of dark green crystal, and he could feel where they had been fused to the skin of the creature he had taken them from. Small pieces of raw flesh, still moist with blood, clung to it. This was the prize. This was all that mattered, and the very reason why he'd come here in the first place. Now, all he had to do was wait until the hated ones above left, and he would have won. Part 3 is about Mordor, which, yeah. I think they're trying to, because he was kind of the boss for this one, right? So that kind of makes sense why they would do that. Let's see. He tried to shake his skull again, still to no avail, as he dug himself too deep into the dirt when he'd set off that previous distraction, which, in his none too humble opinion, had been nothing but a stroke of genius. Set off a big explosion to mask as I burrowed myself into the ground, he thought to himself. That always works with these stupid bags of flesh. Give them something flashy and loud to look at, and they won't notice anything else. Stupid living things. As he lay waiting, a worm crawled into his eye socket and further through a small crack into his skull, where his brain had once been. He knew he should not draw attention to himself by summoning magic, but couldn't help but spear the worm with the tiniest bit of energy, killing it instantly. And now, he had a dead worm in his skull. Bored out of his wit and looking for a way to pass the time, Mordor the Mad resurrected the worm and made it wiggle a little macabre dance of death inside his head. Wiggle, wiggle, little worm. We will make the living squirm. This time he couldn't help but laugh madly at his own genius. Luckily, though, the dirt in his jaw muffled the sound from any of the soldiers above, which went about their tasks completely unaware of the darkness, biding its time just a few feet below them. So that is parts 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So what do you guys think? I'm excited. I'm happy that we're going to get a new master. And like I said, I've really been looking forward to that paladin master being introduced, which looks like we're getting. So I'm so excited about that. Very, very excited. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our video, you can catch us live on twitch.tv/LeilaFoxNation 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on by and be part of our community, and we'll see you there.